Remember today, February 17th, 2023. It was pretty cold last night. It was tough. And it's going to get, on average, 6 degrees colder next week. So if the housing that I may or may not have an appointment to go see that's available, or may not be available, tries to enforce a 6-month rule for me to be here, it's slavery, right? I don't know if I want to be here that long. I'd prefer starting with a month, paying cash, and seeing how it goes. And then after that, there should be a probation period. I don't know how loud or weird drug addict neighbors will be, and that's fairly common in affordable or semi-affordable housing. People might say, Martin, why aren't you more self-sufficient? Why don't you have your own toilet in the motorhome? Well, first of all, you need to pay extra fees to have water, to have heating, to pay for the sewage disposal, and the heating thing it's hard to work with the Ministry of Poverty Creation, because the more I try to work with them, the more I've documented over the last couple of decades that they steal from me so they can pay their salaries and their pensions. Really, it's pretty sad. Like after my radiator goes, then the starter goes, and that's kind of more important than trying to get some sort of more permanent and self-sustaining, self-sustaining is probably not the right word, but heating for myself that I can park in a cul-de-sac like I did last night that has almost no traffic or no traffic most nights, to not bother anybody and have my own heating. For that, it requires, income, a little bit of people teaching me, depending on which method I choose for heating, and also maybe even modifications of things that I don't have the tools or the extra money to do. So without the Ministry of Poverty Creation, which I've informed many times, and the way they do things is really, it's so micromanaged that, they always pay themselves 3-4 times the salary of the extra time they take to refuse you. And then when they accept you, that amount that they give you, which is usually not the amount that is sufficient to solve a problem in the long term, it's about 4 times more that they pay themselves. So it's kind of hard. So the starter and radiator in the same 12-month limited budget were both over $1,000. Staying in a community in that time that closes doors to employment. So I'm stuck there. So Canada is I can't have the freedom to be an Homo sapien here. So it's pretty sad. I'm pretty happy, though, when I got stuck yesterday that my transmission didn't fail or something, and I spent hours. I took pride in getting unstuck by myself. It took a few hours, or at least an hour, more than an hour, of trying and moving things and adding more of that and changing course slightly and finally getting unstuck, and then still leaving in a way that was extremely risky. I decided to try to put my parking brake on, which is not a hand thing, it's a foot thing, at different levels, to do most of my braking with the 4 wheels in the back, so that it would be less likely that I need to apply the brake more and therefore lock up my front wheels, which don't have ABS, which means that if anybody other than me would have this vehicle by now, they would have had an accident. It's so hard backing up also with this thing with limited visibility. The only visibility I have is this, which you got to keep clean, but it still just shows you a tiny bit, a couple of feet behind when you're close to something, not before you're close to it. So, otherwise there's no cameras or visibility here. So there's a lot of ways that an average driver would have had already 3 types of claims with this vehicle. Anyways, I'm doing my best role modeling being an Homo sapien, but you got to remember I live among the Homo communia, who all think they're better than me if they have a house or a pension, or they know this or that based on the area they live more, but they don't have the humanity. It's easy for me to prove the humanity rests in these behaviors, which at this stage of the Anthropocene is so far from the norm that I could have an education, I could, do a blood test to prove I'm not a drug addict, or a urine test, or whatever it is, criminal record checks, whatever it is, and people still think they're more human than me with their drugs, but their bank accounts that are bigger, with the fact that they take pride in themselves and teaching their kids to get ahead at the expense of others that they may or may not be able to understand that they're doing.